And welcome to another episode of Experts Speak. I'm Michael DeLon, and today I am talking with Pete Mohr. Pete, thanks for being on Experts Speak today.
Hey, thanks for having me, Michael. It's a real pleasure. Looking forward to a great conversation.
We are going to have a great time because Pete is I call him a business coach. He's a strategist. He helps entrepreneurs create turnkey businesses that give them more freedom. And Pete, man, when I read that, I went, you are my Pete. I love that because it's really, as entrepreneurs, that's really the dream, I think, of getting in and having the freedom to do what I want, when I want, with whom I want, without regard for money, because I've got a system built that is drawing in the right clients, and I've got processes and all of that. We're going to have a great time talking, but as we get into that, tell us a little bit about who you are. How in the world did you get to this spot of helping business owners do this?
Well, Michael, I'm a lifelong entrepreneur. It's pretty much all I've ever done. So I've bought, built, sold, franchised, defranchised businesses, all that kind of stuff. So, currently I'm still owning a few businesses too. So Simplifying Entrepreneurship is my coaching business, but I still own and operate businesses too. My predominant one is called Shoetopia, and we own a couple of shoe stores in Ontario here.
How fun.
So before this meeting, I was just on a manager meeting with my shoe store group, and a lot of that sort of stuff. So I'm involved there, and but I'm spending, quite honestly, most of my time with Simplifying Entrepreneurship and coaching other entrepreneurs, because that's a real passion of mine. And I look at our shoe store. I mean, I love shoes. I love our businesses. I've owned them for several years and all that stuff. It's not, I have no intention of getting rid of it, but I've turnkeyed that business already. It's already kind of running on itself. I put 6 to 10 hours in a week with that business, and it operates because we've designed it that way. And it allows me to have the conversation with you, Michael. It allows me to, help other entrepreneurs grow and succeed and do the same sort of thing, because that's what I'm passionate about. It gives me energy instead of sucks the energy out of me. I'm working in my unique, my sort of unique zone. So from that perspective, spent my entire life, I've done all kinds of things. I've ran, cleaning franchises, built from 30 30 clients to 300 companies, and then sold. And then I had a multiple truck operation in the bathroom renovation business for 15 years. So lots of different things, lots of different experiences, construction and different stuff in retail. So, I've got some interesting stories along the way, but it's all around entrepreneurship, and that's what I live for. And that's why we're having the conversation.
That's awesome, man. I love it. And one of the things I love about what you do in coaching entrepreneurs is that you are actually living it as an entrepreneur. You have businesses and you're coaching. So it's not like you got rid of that and now I'm just a full-time coach, which nothing wrong with that. But there's a different element when you're running a business and you're applying what you teach other people. And you and I connected really well. My audience understands me, and they know that I live on these 3 words of clarify, simplify, and multiply, in that order. And you've got a fun phrase that you talked to me about, clarify, or clarifying. Just unpack that. Tell us what that phrase is. And then let's talk a little bit about the importance of having what I call absolute clarity in your business. What is that phrase?
So I got a couple, but the one we talked about is one that I put on my Simplifying Entrepreneurship podcast. It's part of the intro all the time because it's so important, which is clarity creates confidence, and confidence ignites momentum. And so when we talk about that scale, we talk about growth and all that stuff. You never seem to have the confidence to push through and get the courage and stuff like that in order to develop the momentum, unless you have clarity. It starts at clarity. It has to start at clarity. So whenever you're feeling, and I've got this other model, and it's on my website, it's called the Wheel of Momentum. And, the 6 C's on that are clarity, confidence, competence, cooperation, capacity, and creativity. And so when you roll through those 6 C's, it continues to go, and it's really just a wheel of flow. But the problem is if you get stuck at confidence, you have to go back and get clarity. If you get stuck at competence, you have to go back and get confidence. If you get stuck at cooperation, you might have to go all the way back to clarity, to clarify something, to come back and get the capacity. And,
Right.
this is this idea of the wheel will roll so long as these things are in order. But if they don't, it actually goes backwards and can stall you and set levels of complexity and all sorts of different things that can cause issues where your momentum stops, right? It's like, oh my gosh, we're dead in the sand right now. I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go. Well, why don't you know what to do and where to go? Because you don't have clarity.
Absolutely, man. There's so much there, but the most entrepreneurs I run with, and you probably run with them as well, is we're big vision people, right? We want the world, but we don't know how to go from here to there. And that really has a lot to do with what I would say systems. You would call it, I think, process. Right. That's where the transformation, that's how you've created a turnkey business. You have systems, and then you have people who are running those systems and processes in your business. You're checking in with them, right? Talk to our audience about the importance of that, taking that vision. Let's say you have a clear vision. How do you start? What's the pathway to go? How do you help business owners get to that next level?
Well, there's a couple of different avenues we can take this. We can go down the 5P model that we had discussed, or we can just kind of dig into a few things on process too, which is one of the P's. The other thing I just want to inject here, the word system I love too, by the way, system, process, same thing. Okay. But the acronym that I like that's tied into the word system, if you've heard it, maybe you have, maybe you haven't. I learned it from one of my coaches, Joel Weldon. And I'm not sure that it was his, but it's a great acronym. A system is what? It's something that saves you stress, time, energy, and money. So what does a system do? What does a process do? What does a system do? It saves you stress, time, energy, and money. As a business leader, why would I not want that? Why would I not want to have more systems?
I love it. I've never heard that. I'm going to model that, use that. That is perfect.
Yeah.
That's what we want as business owners. That's great.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll attribute that to Pete Mohr,
Well, yeah. And like I said, I don't know who developed it. I've actually researched to try to figure out whose it was. And I asked Joel, and Joel was like, I don't know where that one came from.
It's funny. Yeah. I do a lot of Bible reading and things. And there's this, everybody's like, well, what book and verse is that? And there's this passage in the Bible somewhere where it may have even been Jesus saying it. He's like, it is written. And I'm like, it's just written in there somewhere. Somebody said.
But anyway, I attribute it to who I learned it off, and that's kind of how I do it.
I love it. Okay.
It's a good one.
It is. Yeah. All right. So let's talk about, first of all, let's do the 5 Ps. Let's give that context, but then let's dive in, because systems really is where a lot of people, they don't understand how to do it or why it's so important. So let's talk about the 5 Ps and then that.
So we started off by having this chat about this idea of having a turnkey business, or, what I call turning your frustrations into freedoms. Because, we buy our businesses, or we build our businesses, we start our businesses because we have this idea that being an entrepreneur is going to give us more freedom. And what happens often is we get overworked, overwhelmed. We're working 30 or 50, 60, 70 hours a week. And we kind of look back 5-10 years later and go, what the heck just happened here? I missed my kids growing up. I missed family vacations. I don't have the time that I'd like to have. I haven't done anything from a leisure perspective in how long? I don't have maybe the relationships that I want, just a variety of different things. So setting up your business to become, not necessarily completely turnkey, but even if it's more turnkey than it is now. And the idea of turnkey is sort of coming back to this idea that if you walk into a house and then it's turnkey, there's nothing to be done. So when you're selling a business, just to put that in perspective, I used to be somebody who was a business broker as well. So whenever we sold businesses that were turnkey, which means the owner could literally walk in and everything else would just happen. Those were so much more valuable than if they were pinned down to the owner still being there, because everything was in their head. And that's when we get into these 5 Ps. And it really all starts with knowing what the promise is of the business. And so what is the promise of the business? And, that's where you need the clarity piece. That's that clarity piece, Michael, right? Okay. So full clarity, what is it that you do? And I usually split this out into 3 sort of simple phrases, which is, what problem do you solve? What are your solutions that address the problem, which are unique to you? And what does the client's life look after they've used them? So you can frame that any way you like. You can use it in all of your marketing. You can use it in all of your communications as a leader to your team, to your suppliers, to your clients. What's the problem you're addressing? What are your unique solutions that address that problem? And what does their life look like after they've used them? Because everybody buys a better future.
Absolutely. Well, and you're helping your prospect or client visualize and own that transformation in their life, very much like what you do with business owners, is helping them visualize the transformation that's going to come as they work with you. That's beautiful. Right. I love the way you unpack that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, once that's firm and you've got your guiding principles and all that stuff, and we work with people building all that kind of stuff, but the next step is really understanding what the product is, because if the product doesn't fully align with that promise, which often is the case, by the way, or at least a part of the product mix doesn't align with the promise, then it doesn't belong. And there's a disconnect there amongst all of the people around your business, both your team, your wholesalers, your suppliers, your outsourced partners, and most of all your clients. So really digging down, there's frameworks around that too, about how to align your products. And a lot of for people who've been in business a long time, Michael, a lot of the problemed products are actually the legacy products.
Yeah, very much.
They're the ones that have been around for ages. And it's like, that's just the way we do it. We've always sold that piece. And it's like, well, does it still make money for you? Does it still actually deliver your promise? Does it deliver it quicker, cheaper, faster? All of those things that people are wanting now compared to it did 3, 5, 7, 10, 20 years ago. Some people are still selling the same stuff, right? And it's like things progress. So when you look at that, it's like, okay, so what needs to be parsed off? What needs to be efficient, more effective in the middle? And what are you bringing in? What's the new stuff, right? On that product strategy side of things. So that's P number 2. P number 3, we get into process, which is the systems, the process, right? And sort of around that, we could go on for hours and hours on process, right? Oh my God, it's like endless. But what are the processes? And the big thing here to create the turnkey business is it cannot be in your head. It can't be in your head. It can't be in your head. It can't be in any person's head in your organization at any level. It has to be out. It has to be on video. It has to be on paper. It has to be communicated in any way to get things done. So it's a yes or no answer, because that's the only way you're going to get your freedom.
Absolutely.
And that somebody else has been delegated that particular responsibility. And, I love we were talking books before we hopped on. One of my favorite books is Traction. It's in behind here by Gino Wickman. Great book. Totally. And one of the things that I really like about Gino's book, Traction, is the accountability chart. It's an organizational chart. Okay. But it has a different word, and it's called the accountability chart. And when you start assigning accountabilities to the systems and processes in your business, then you will start to feel the freedom. You start to feel as though, oh, I can let that go. And you start to dashboard that stuff so that you're green lighting, yellow lighting, and red lighting that stuff. And as the leader, you're really looking at the dashboard instead of dealing with the decision. And that's the problem, right? As leaders, we only have so much decision-making power to have in a day. So what you want to do through these processes, through these accountabilities, through all the alignment of your promise, is you want to have, because this is good for your customer too, you want to have the decision made at the very lowest level of the business possible.
Yep, absolutely.
And when that happens, because it's systematized, because they already know the answer, because they know what to do, and because it's out of your head, they don't have to ask for you or ask for somebody else. It's just there. It's just done. It's just part of how we do this. This is the process in alignment with the promise that we're making to the customer, that it's just dealt with. And when that happens, what happens for you as the leader is you have the freedom of your time and decision-making power to make those decisions on the most important decisions that aren't already systematized, that there aren't already processes for. So now they're using your brain to say, what do we do here? And this becomes sort of the thing where the bigger decisions float up to you because everything else is systematized in process, in place. the accountabilities are there. It's already been, as Gino would put in his book, elevated and delegated. You know, all of that sort of stuff has been done. And you're starting to feel this freedom. You're starting to feel that you have the competence, right? We talked about that in the Wheel of Momentum, and you have the capacity now. And it's like, wow, some stuff's happening. I'm feeling some momentum. So what happens then? We get creative as entrepreneurs, because that's our nature. We're visionaries, right? So we start getting creative again. And what happens with after creativity? We have to clarify. And then we go back in this round again of building in this way. And it's if that's the zone that you like to live in a leader, it's pretty empowering when you get these things happening in the right way.
Yeah, that's great. And I love that framework you have, because so many times we just celebrated 9 years in our business.
Nice.
And
Congratulations.
Thank you. I have felt like a pinball, right? All the time, just bouncing, recreating. And half the time I thought, no, that didn't work. I'm a failure. No, I was learning, I was growing, I was changing, I was developing. And in the last year and a half, we've started building systems that are out of my head. They're on paper, they're on video. Nice. And my son Caleb works in the business with me. We're going through the account, all of this, and what it has given me, as you just said, freedom to focus on my area. You and I have recently met. I'm only good, Pete, at 4 things. Okay. In life. I'm excellent at these 4 things. Outside of that, I'm mediocre at best, right? I am now able to spend more and more time in these 4 areas because I'm systematizing. I'm finding the freedom, and it's transforming my life and my business. So everything you're saying right now is just resonating with me.
Sweet.
And I hope it's resonating with our audience, because it really is the key to enjoying the entrepreneurial life. Why did we even get into this thing, right? Yeah. So keep going. Sorry, process. Yeah. Promise, product, process.
Yeah, the next one's people, but I'll finish off process a little bit because one of you, when you were saying that your 4 areas of your genius zone or your unique ability, however you want to phrase it, I call it love it or leave it. And it really revolves around this process piece and the accountability piece, where you're really working in your area of, I love this, right? I love to do what I'm doing. And the leave it area, the problem is that people who are mired down in the frustration and don't have these things in alignment, they're spending 50, 60, 70, 90% of their time in the leave it zone. And they're spending like 5, 10, 15, 20 in the love it zone. And it's like, do you want to live 5% in the love it zone? I don't. No. That's not why I got in business. That's the frustration. That's the sleepless nights. That's all the stuff that comes around being an entrepreneur, where you're thinking, why am I even doing this? And if that's the way you're feeling, it's like, it's time to put some of this stuff in place so that you can actually live more in your love it zone and do the things that not only you love to do, but that contribute the most to your business and most to your clients and most to your family, right? All of those things, because our families and our lives as entrepreneurs and our businesses are always coupled. They say that, you should decouple them and all this kind of stuff. No, you can't. They're coupled.
Mix it all together.
Right? Yes, do we want to break apart certain times, and do we want to set aside free time and focus time and flex time and all that sort of? Absolutely, we do. But as entrepreneurs, our lives are coupled, and you need to know what you want. When we go back to the focus and the clarity, the ultimate clarity is knowing what you want your business to deliver back to you. And in order to do that, you need to know what you actually want.
Yeah. That is so key. We need to do another podcast just on that, because so many times as entrepreneurs, you ask them, what do you want? And they give you a number.
Yeah.
It's not about the number. It's about the lifestyle. I read a book over the Christmas holiday, reread one, and there was a line in there, and they said, most successful entrepreneurs work in between their vacations. And I thought, that's brilliant. I love that idea. Block out all your vacations and then work in between those, because you've got a turnkey business and I thought, I love that concept.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'll give you one last sort of quick story around this, which I just told my team. I told you we had a team meeting earlier this morning, and I said, oh, by the way, guys, I think I'm going to be gone for the month of March. And they're like, oh, okay.
They're probably going, yes.
So, I mean,
that's great.
It's just, I have things in a place where I can pretty much run virtually with most of the stuff. I coach clients. I can do that virtually. So I've set up my business in alignment with how I want to live. And, I haven't taken a month off before. I've taken, weeks here, and I took a lot of time off last year, but not a full block of a full month. So I just said, we can actually do this, and let's do it. So we're going to do it. And that's the freedom that I was looking for this winter. So, you can do this stuff too. It takes time. And the next P is a big one. It's people. And it's often the most stressful thing for entrepreneurs. And I break down people into 3 categories. 1, your ideal clients. 2, your terrific team, your perfect team members. And 3, who are those outsourced suppliers, all of your wholesalers, whoever else is a part of delivering your promise is, anybody else that's sort of connected into that circle, that your zone, your sphere of influence, all of those other people. So, every one of those in each level can give you frustration and also give you freedom. Right. So understanding who your ideal client is, and a very quick sort of thing that you can do right now as you're listening, providing you're not driving, grab a sheet of paper, right down the middle of the paper on the left side, this person's name. It's your worst client you've ever had, worst customer you've ever had. It could have been 10 years ago. You probably still know their name, and you still know why they were the worst. Write it all down. Just write it down. Brainstorm why this was your worst customer ever. Do the exact same on the right-hand side of the paper for your best ever client. It's like, I wish I could work only for this person and these kind of people all the time. Write all of those key characteristics, all of those things down. Just brainstorm it out. And then when you have that, clump them together in sort of nodes, and you're going to start inputting any new client into that score sheet as to when you're having a discovery call, when you're meeting somebody new. It's like, is this my ideal client because of this, and this? Or is this my worst ever client potentially because of this, and this? And when you're importing basically, or when new people come in, you're having discovery calls, people walk through the door, however you're garnering new clients, you're really scaling them on this map. And it really clarifies who you want to work for. And coming back, I know you like marketing, Michael, coming back to marketing, you're always going to be marketing to either attract or repel, right?
Absolutely.
So this gives you a ton of marketing stuff too. Here's all the key qualities you want to be attracting. And you're also in your marketing saying, these are the ones we don't want. You're repelling, because it's okay and just as good to repel the people you don't want as it is to attract the good ones.
Totally. Yeah. I love that. The phrase that came into my mind is your right fit matrix is what you just described as, I want a right fit for both of us.
For sure.
Because wow.
So you do the same thing and scorecard your team. Who's the worst ever employee? Who's the best ever employee? Your suppliers. Who's the worst ever supplier? Who's the best ever supplier? So that you know what suppliers you want to work with. So you know what team members you want to work with. So you're reducing your frustration as the leader of the business and increasing your freedom. Because with good people that are fully aligned with all of these other things we've talked about, who understand processes, understand your product, because they want to help you deliver the promise, the alignment's happening, and decisions get done. They happen because there's alignment. And you're setting all this stuff up, and what you're bringing after that. Go ahead. You were going to say something.
There's alignment, but the other thing when you set it up this way is there's empowerment of your team members.
Oh yeah.
And that helps people grow. And that's what you want, is you want to hire somebody who will take it, who will make that decision, who will grow, who might come back to you and say, hey, Pete, we've been doing it this way. Have we ever thought about this? And you might go, wow, no, that's a great idea. But when you empower your team to run, it gives you so much freedom. It allows them to grow, to become the people God's created them to be. So,
yeah. I mean, just to cap that one as well a little bit, with regards to giving them the freedom and authority. Everybody wants to have authority. Everybody wants that. So give them the authority. And when you're handing off nobody can do it as good as you. Well, quite honestly, there's a lot of people that can probably do a lot of that stuff that when we talk about love it or leave it, that you want to leave way better than you. Maybe not just for the one-offs, but if it's something that you really just don't like doing and you're good at, you're not doing a good job at it.
That's right.
So hand it off and delegate it. And they're probably if it's their love it zone and they love doing that stuff, they're going to do a better job anyway.
Absolutely.
So let it go, you know?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. The vision's not to control everything. The vision's the freedom that I'm taking a month off and my business is going to actually thrive. That's great.
Yeah. Yeah. So, just to kind of recap back to that, we were closed. Our shoe stores were closed for 4 months because of COVID last year, based on uncontrollables, which are, you know, the government locked us down and here in Canada. So the other 8 months, we had 7 out of 8 best months ever. And I've been less involved in my business than I ever have been. So why did that happen? Because we had the right people, because we had the right systems, because, you know, all these things are in alignment with that particular business now, which has given me my freedom. And we're actually doing better than we ever did before.
Yeah. Yeah. And let me just pause in there before we hit the last P. Is this is all doable. And I think so many times as business owners, we hear these things, we read the books, we hear the podcast guys, and we're like, well, I could never do that. And the reality is, yes, it is. What do you need? What you need really is a coach like Pete, somebody who's A, been there, B, has a process to take you through, and somebody that you can lock arms with to go, Pete, here's what I want to do in the next 5 years. Here's where I really want to be. Because this is not a purple pill overnight, 90 days. No. And when you hear that, run the other direction. But when you find somebody like this who has a set matrix of going, great, we can go there. It's going to take some time. It's going to take some money. It's going to take some effort. It's going to be some heartache, but we're going to get there.
Yeah.
And you're meeting with your clients. It's possible, people. And you just need somebody like a Pete to guide you down that process, because A, he's been there, he's living it, but B, he now can coach you to make it happen. So we all need coaches. And so,
you know, thanks for that, Michael. And, you know, I'll give you my take on the difference between a coach and a consultant. A coach is somebody that's there for you. The coach, we just got off the Olympics and we're going to be jumping into more Olympics again, but the coach doesn't run the race, doesn't take the dive, doesn't take the shot, doesn't, jump the highest. The coach is there beside the person doing that. And so a consultant is somebody that is a done for you type model. You say, I want my Instagram feeds looked after and somebody to be done. That would be a consultant that's going to look after that for you. We're coaches. We're there alongside and helping bring out the best and understanding what it is they truly want, giving them guidance and support along the way, holding them accountable to getting their reps in, right? Like a Olympic coach is like, you need to do this. You need to show up. You need it's like there's an accountability piece there too, right? It's like
absolutely,
you know, so from that perspective, you know, it really does take some time. You don't get to the Olympics unless you put in the time.
Absolutely.
And so, all of these things don't happen overnight, but how do they ever happen if you don't start? Yeah,
that's right. Yeah. And that a lot of that, honestly, Pete, comes back to the lack of confidence in the business owner's mind. Yeah. And how do you bridge that confidence is really having a great coach and surrounding yourself with like-minded people who maybe are a step ahead of you, right? I'm in a coaching program right now. Dude, this one guy, I mean, he's got like, I don't know, 15 people in it. This one guy is investing $100,000 a month in Facebook ads. He's selling coaching programs for like $10,000 a month. And I'm like,
good for him.
Dude, you are in a stratosphere that I don't even operate in. Praise God. I need to be around him because he thinks differently than I do. Yeah, it's awesome. Put yourself around people like that. Where do you find those people? Pete knows lots of them, right? I know lots of them because we put ourselves in different groups and we're coaching different entrepreneurs. That's how we grow, because I don't know about you, Pete. I know for me, 95% of my issues are between my ears. It's in my head.
Yeah, sure.
How do we get around it? We put ourselves with coaches who say, hey, I got it. Been there. Yep. Let's go. Don't buy the lie. Let's go. You can do this. That's what we need. So that's why somebody like Pete is so valuable. So Pete, we got one more P though.
Yeah,
it's promise, product, process, people,
profit.
We love profit.
Yeah. You know what? We get into business because we don't, you know, there's charitable businesses and things like that too. Sure. But even the ones that are not for profit have to actually sustain themselves. Right. Yeah. And so at the end of the day, we need to have profit in order to create freedom. And when you have all those other things aligned, the profit starts to come. And what happens when the profit starts to come? Well, we can then actually use some of our decision-making that we couldn't use because we were decisioned out with all this other stuff. And now we can start being creative about how we want to use the profit and that wheel of momentum. We're at creativity now again. Now we can clarify what it is that we want to do. Do I want to spend more time coaching entrepreneurs? Do I want to buy a rental unit? Do I want to, take up knitting? I mean, it doesn't matter what it is, but now you have the freedom of not the worry and frustration of not having enough money to do some of the stuff that you want to do. But when you have some of that freedom, you can then decide, do I want to hire another manager to take some more, to delegate some more stuff so I can have more time back? A lot of the people that I'm working with are doing okay for money. They want their time. They want their relationships. They want their, as they'll say, I want my life back. Right. And it doesn't mean they don't want to still do their business. They still want to do their business, but they just don't want to be there all the time, for every decision. Right. So that's this idea of creating this turnkey business so that you're still involved in your business when you want to be. And sometimes when you need to be, because COVID happens and 3 people are off and it's like, you're the last person to open the door. It's like, yeah, I'm available for that. I'm still the business owner. But at the same time, that's not what I'm called upon every day. Right.
Yep.
It's a big difference. So profit unleashes freedom. And that's why it's the last of the P's, because if you don't really have those other things, we're not really maximizing our profit. And in order to get the freedoms that you want, you pretty much need to, so that it's not as big of a worry and you can start looking at some of these other things and start incorporating more freedom as you build your profit. Yeah, absolutely. And I love that, incorporating systems and things to build profit. So we've chosen in our company over the last few months to, and this may sound heretical, to sacrifice some profit and growth in order to buy us the time and energy to build the systems that are needed and hire the people. Because we know when we do that, long run, profit's going to be much better, right? But that's your choice, right? Yeah. And the nice thing is you have the choice to do that with that money, right? And you couldn't if you hadn't built all the other stuff to begin with, right? You'd still be back where you were trying to get through all this stuff. And it comes in waves, right? And that's that whole circle. So when you go through the next wave, then you're going through this whole thing again of creating more confidence of this next wave. And that's that momentum piece, right? Absolutely. And so, it's a really interesting framework around that. And when you start looking at that, what are you going to do with it? Well, you might, sacrifice some of this in order to get that, but that's your choice. That's the freedom. That's right. Well, let's give somebody some help. Okay. I know they can reach out to you at simplifyingentrpreneurship.com. Yes, sir. But you've got this little, it's not a quiz. It's a business. It's an assessment. Thank you. Explain it, because I want people to go check this thing out. Yeah. So it's a great assessment. I'm a Business Made Simple certified coach. So with that, it's this wonderful assessment, and it takes about 12 minutes, 15 minutes to do, basically. But, I think it doesn't take very long anyway for what you get back. And it really lays everything out. So you finish, it's a bunch of multiple choice type questions. And when you're finished, it spits you back between a 50 and 60 page PDF document telling you exactly what you're doing really well and the things that you need to work on this year. And from that perspective, whether you go and dig your own information and work on the stuff that you want to work on your own, if you're watching a lot of books, lots of courses, lots of different stuff, or whether you hire a professional like Michael or myself to do different things, it just gives you these ideas of what you should be doing. But it also pats you on the back to say, you know what, you're doing awesome at these 3 areas. It's all laid out in an airplane. So the cockpit is your execution side, your whole, your leadership side of things. The wings are sort of sales and marketing. So it's all laid out in a nice little framework that makes sense of everything, because you want that airplane to fly. You don't want it to drop because the fuselage is too heavy and it's just sinking you, so all sorts of different things. Or if sales isn't working, or if marketing isn't working, you're lopsided. And so it's a good framework around that. Gives you lots of little tips and tools. I mean, it's 60 pages. So it really adds up. Wow. That's great. And so somebody can just go to your website and find that. Is there a unique, Yeah, I mean, we can drop it in the show notes, but yeah, it's right. It's all over my website. Just go to Simplifying Entrepreneurship and click Take the Assessment. It's in the upper right-hand corner, but it's many other areas throughout the page as well.
Awesome. That is such a good takeaway. 15, 20 minutes of your time to get back a great report, and then to know what do you need, what are you doing well, and where do you need to work on? It's things like that are really super helpful, Pete. And I just want to encourage people to check out your website. Yes, Simplifying Entrepreneurship. Great name, great URL. A lot of super information there. Pete also has a podcast.
I do.
So you can check that out. It's Simplifying Entrepreneurship podcast.
There you go. Try to keep things simple, right?
I love it. Clarity. I love clarified. So check Pete out. He's just got a lot to offer, and you can just tell from the conversation he's genuine, he's authentic. He's walking the talk, and that's one reason I wanted him on here. And I'm so grateful that we're building a relationship, Pete, because you and I serve a similar market, but we do so many different things, right? Yeah. But the message that we put out is very similar: is clarify, simplify, multiply. That's that order.
Love it.
So thanks for the 5 Ps. That's going to be great. I'm going to put the information in the show notes. Encourage people to reach out to you, Pete, and the Simplifying Entrepreneurship. It's been a fantastic conversation, Pete. I am so glad that you've been here. Thank you, man.
Thanks for having me, Michael. It's been a real pleasure here to be with you today.
You are so welcome, buddy. Take care.